And I will now suggest that we move on to the third part of this program. Please, I'll ask all of the participants to come up. We're going to welcome Anne-Laure de Pouyanné, Anne-Laure, and we'll also welcome Mechthild. I think I see her coming up now. And now we're going to introduce our third part, which is dedicated to regulation and innovation as an opportunity rather than a threat. Anne-Laure de Chammard, Pouyanné, and Marianne Laigneau, please come up and sit on stage. No, you don't want to come up to the stage. I understand that you're already striking up conversations backstage. Okay, you're coming. Please sit down, and I'll hand over to you for this introductory keynote. Thank you very much, Mr. President, dear Emmanuel. Thank you for inviting me to represent the European Commission. I'm going to touch on what Claire Besson said at the end. We need more Europe. We need to strengthen the single market. And first of all, I would like to say congratulations for the 25 years to the team. Today, this is a very French debate, but we're experiencing something similar in Brussels. We'll open the debate somewhat. That's not a criticism, but I've been asked to talk about the project of innovation in the energy sector, in the European energy sector today. And we've talked a lot about energy transition today, but energy transition will not happen without innovation. We have objectives to ensure our companies and individuals have affordable energy with a reliable supply that will be fully decarbonized by 2050, not only in France, but in Europe as well. There is a law that says that we have to be decarbonized by 2050. The European Commission's mandate began 6 months ago. The new mandate began 6 months ago, and the objectives on industrial policies and policies of affordable energy prices is our #1 priority for this mandate, combined with the decarbonization and safety and reliability. If we go back to innovation, we talked about Draghi. Draghi shows out of the 3 priorities that innovation is key, not only for energy transition, but for all the objectives outlined in the report. We've mentioned the energy crisis in 2022 and the price hike, but we also saw a solidarity between the 27 European countries where they helped one another. We passed a number of regulations and legislations to ensure that now, 3 years later, we have a higher price than prior to the crisis and higher than the United States, as we heard, but we're out of the crisis and we no longer have these spikes. But going back to the transformation of the energy sector, we know that it's something that's impossible without the technologies and services and management of the energy system, and their need to be new and innovative. We've already talked about the IEA that states that a third of the greenhouse gas emissions that will be necessary between now and 2050 will come from technologies that are currently under research or prototype technologies. So we need to invest in innovation. And I'm not just talking about innovation in the sectors that we're familiar with, nuclear or other natural sources, we need to look at the flexibilities, hydrogen, carbon capture, carbon storage, and all of this requires innovation to achieve what we are trying to achieve: decarbonization, decentralization, and digitalization. At the European Commission, we provide support through all the steps of the innovation cycle: priorities, development phases, test phases, pilot phases, right up until the deployment of new technologies and the launch of the innovation cycle, the following innovation cycle. We have a framework, we have a strategic program for these technologies, a 7-step program, and we have the priorities that we have today, but more priorities that we will come to in the future. To finance these innovations, we have a research program called Horizons Europe, which is the leading program of the European Union in terms of research and innovation, and it is the most important program worldwide. From 2021 to 2027, we have allocated over 15 billion euros to the energy sector, to mobility of the climate and networks. And I cite networks because representatives from different networks here and in the previous panel, in the network and energy systems, the intelligent systems, as we say, research and development contributes not only to the development of new network technologies, but also promises new planification methodologies and new use of the network, and allows us to experiment new methods of coordination between the managers of the network and the activities of other stakeholders on the other. And the other stakeholders are more and more consumers, those who produce the energy that they consume, and the suppliers of energy storage facilities. France is one of the leaders in this sector, and I think that we could already say that Enedis is in the first place worldwide of the Smart Grids Index, which manages the performance across 37 countries. So congratulations, Marianne Laigneau. There's also a key project called Interopera, 70 million euros, which has the objective of developing HDC technologies, high voltage networks, allowing a better interconnection between offshore wind farms with land-based wind farms. This is a key step that will reinforce the efficacy of offshore operations and gathers 20 key partners in France. This now brings me back to the topic of regulation and cooperation between partners, and it was covered this afternoon. Cooperation and coordination of partners is key, and I can touch on what Claire Vaison said at the end. We are creating a union task force that will allow us to communicate between the 27 states and talk about our regulations, our electricity market design, and how the European Union can work in this sector and what the current gaps are. And they are still there. We have also put action plans in place in terms of the digitalization of the energy sector. We've taken a number of actions to reinforce the networks. One of those actions, under the aegis of European regulations such as ASA, Christian, and other network management entities, includes establishing a collaboration of an intelligent collaboration plan to stimulate the necessary investments in terms of the digitalizations of the network. I would like to thank the regulators who have achieved this. I was in Copenhagen on Monday at the forum where all of this was presented, and we discussed this further. There are many other examples of how we can work together, not just the transition organizations and the development organizations or distribution organizations, but the creation of digital tools. And lastly, I would like to thank the work from the Agency of Cooperation and highlight the annual report from 2025 on tariffs, because the tariffs illustrate and promote the network providers. And now, as we are preparing a new CRITS package on the network, which will be published at the end of the year on a European level, we will look at the optimal use of existing networks that will allow us to make savings and limit investments in new networks as much as possible. This will have an impact on prices and the cost of energy, and then an impact on the networks, which will highlight the deployment of new methods. But we have to look at what exists already. In terms of the cost to the consumers, the act of suppliers is important, and suppliers can deploy innovative solutions and services that will allow their customers, and I'm sure Mr. Pouyanné can tell us more about the vision of an energy supplier in terms of innovation. And lastly, in terms of industry, we've already talked about the Net Zero Industrial Act. We want to develop more technologies and innovative technologies, sustainable innovative technologies, and stimulate competitiveness in Europe with industrials in Europe. And I think that Anne-Laure de Chammard at Siemens Energy will cover this. Innovation is not only down to the development of the technology and the infrastructures, but also the management of the network and respect of market regulations. Regulation plays a fundamental role because it provides a framework and the encouragement necessary for this development. I've already mentioned the works by ACER and other national regulators. And to conclude, we have a lot of innovation. I have another example that was mentioned by the minister at the beginning of this afternoon, Turbo 7. Congratulations to the CRE on this. It's a key example for us, and we hope that we will have more such examples at European level. Thank you for inviting me, and I will be here to participate in the panel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You've already mentioned some questions and set out some topics for conversation. So maybe we can start with you, Anne-Laure de Chammard. The keynote was particularly inspiring. We see how the European Union sets out the framework for innovation and the goals that they have set out for Horizon Europe, as they mentioned. In your opinion, what are the innovations that we can't miss today? What type of innovations? What are we talking about specifically when you talk about innovation at Siemens Energies, and what are the conditions of those innovations? Thank you very much. As Mechthild said, if you look at the next 15 years, the increase in energy demand will increase by 50% worldwide. It'll happen by the production of more and more energy, but also being more efficient, and the emissions that we make too. I think you were saying that there was a third of emissions in the aim to achieve carbon neutrality. A third of these emissions that will contribute to that don't exist today. So if we look at the whole value chain, we are a producer of energy technology, if it's gas turbines, wind turbines, transport, distribution. And in terms of the consumption for large industrial companies, we invest in innovation in all areas in terms of energy efficiency, electrification. We talked about smart grids, digital grids, using AI to see how we can better modulate things, how we can manage the resilience of our networks, and how we can adapt it better. We manage hydrogen too. We have built a gigafactory in Berlin together with Air Liquide. And from this gigafactory, we can produce the capacity to meet the requirements of 50% of what Europe's demands may be by 2050. And we're also we're working with ENGIE, something that Claire mentioned. We're looking at gas turbines that work on hydrogen, 100%, to manage the spikes with hydrogen. And this is another project that we're working on with Horizon Europe. We are investing in carbon capture. We have projects with Aramco in Saudi Arabia, elsewhere, and then we've got small modular reactors in the nuclear sector. So we are present on the whole value chain through partnerships that I've mentioned, or through innovation centres worldwide to capture the ideas and the markets where these technologies may appear firstly, and then also look at ventures to scout startups. This is something that we did with Marianne to help them scale up. Just to link back to the previous panel, in terms of investment, do you feel that there is a certain dynamic? How do you measure it? Yes, and I think this is what Xavier was saying earlier. The dynamics are huge. These are investments that are increasing world over with real issues of bottleneck throughout the supply chain. As Xavier mentioned, if you make an order on a transformer, us manufacturers, it'll take us 6 or 7 years to provide you with that. So to ensure that that works, you need a far-reaching visibility. And that's how I'd link to the previous panel. Patrick Pouyanné, you are very committed to the mutation of activities. Where do you place the cursor of innovation after everything that we've just said? What is the most important thing for you today? What should we focus on?
So, hello. We're a bit new in the world of electricity, but we want to congratulate 25 years. We want to congratulate. You are also celebrating a birthday. Yeah, when I listen to the various messages, it's like we want to move away from the purpose of the Commission. We wonder if competition is worse or is useful. I'll make a connection here with innovation. If we think that the lack of competitiveness will increase innovation, it's the opposite. So when people would say it's the end of innovation, so this is just a general message because you invited me, Emmanuel. I just want to say this. We need to pay attention. So that's the issue with transition. And we'll come to your question in a moment. How do we manage to make transition to lower emissions while keeping affordable energy? This is an equation which we are struggling with. People are saying, the survey from IFOP say that people are enthusiastic about the idea of having decarbonization, but nobody is willing to pay more. And that is a challenge that we are facing. Yes, on the one hand, we want innovation. There are already a number of innovations. We have to do with what we have already. The way I look at transition for us, yes, it's something that we are doing already. But the transition depends on a regulated world. The real debate that we had at Total was about talking about a world with oil where nothing is regulated. We're happy, we produce, we sell on global markets. And then transition forces us to shift to all kinds of regulations. Electricity, people said to us, don't go to electricity, so many regulators, but not true. Everything else is regulated. Molecules are regulated, the low carbon, decarbonated, sustainable fuel, biomethane, everything is regulated. And there's a true difficulty there, coming back to your question, and that is the visibility and predictability of the regulation. In Europe, for example, everyone says we're going to make electric vehicles but there's a small signal. We have changed the way that penalty is applied. I'm looking at another market, and that is the sustainable air fuels. There's a mandate by 2030. Okay, I will reach that. And then between 30 to 35, we go from 20 to 30%. So then I get some doubts. So the question is, should I really invest in this? Because if the mandate moves, changes for consumption issues or client issues, then I will have issues. Biofuels are in overcapacity. So at the moment, people are losing money. And Europe, unfortunately, what is being said does not protect European manufacturers. We're not able really to decide this. We have a lot of Chinese biofuels coming into Europe, so there's even an advantage here in France of 50%, no matter the origin of the biofuels. Just to mention this, in passing. So there's a real topic here. It's important to say this. When you innovate, then I classify topics in two main categories: those that you can already implement, the renewable, batteries, biomass, biofuels. We need to go for it. It already exists. It's mature. The cost of batteries is going down. It's a real topic. We don't have regulations yet. There is no technological neutrality in France. In France, it's better to manufacture certain things than batteries. So we need to have a technological neutrality. Some are more mature than others. Green hydrogen is not mature, for example. I visited just not long ago. I'm very impressed, actually. Siemens. I went to Siemens in Berlin. I was very happy to see it was going well. We came back with a number of ideas, but still it's not mature, especially regarding consumers. I can say it because TotalEnergies is a company that has signed the most contract in the world to get green hydrogen. We are #1 because we want to use this to decarbonize our refineries in Europe. It's not that easy. Europe has said, okay, there's a regulation, but every state is doing their own business, and I don't know. I have a potential of 500,000 tons. I have stopped at 230. When I look at what's going on in each state, the Netherlands have a minimal approach. Germans will probably do what it takes. French, I'm not sure what they're doing. We need to wait probably for a budget law, etc., etc. So that's a real issue. There's a European frameworks, but then there's no unification among countries. So it's difficult to invest in some projects. We're talking about several hundred millions here. People talk about e-fuels. I'm not going to put any €1 in e-fuels. This is the most expensive energy in the world that you could produce for consumers. I know that Europe has written we need to have 5% of e-fuels by 2035. So I'm not sure. Why would you want me to invest? Because I'm not sure that people would pay for this at the end of the day. So that's a real issue. Yes, we are classifying. We are lowering our emissions, gas emissions. I think the error is to think we need to invest now in solutions for 2050. We need to accept the fact that it has to go step by step. We need to lower our capitals to lower emissions, and then later on we will shift to green hydrogen, carbon capture, etc., etc. That's how I see things going. But it's a matter of visibility. This is absolutely pivotal. We are starting to get doubts, as to the real trajectory. Thank you, Marianne. Laigneau. What about innovation? How do you perceive this? We mentioned the 100 billion of investment, not all for innovation. What is a part of innovation in this in order to optimize the new connections and the charging stations? Where do you place the cursor? Good evening. Even though time is moving fast, but still there is time to wish a happy birthday to the CRE. Enedis is a company and a public service at the same time. Public service with an ambition to deliver the best services at the best price. It has to be a performance by nature. At the heart of performance is innovation. Innovation is a way to gain in performance on a number of dimensions. Some aspects have already been mentioned. The innovation was put at the heart of our purpose. We are also a mission company, the only one in the energy sector. Our purpose is to act for a public service that will be innovative and and exercise solidarity. I'm not going to quote Mechthild, who shared, how proud we are to have been listed as the most smart DSO in the world and for the 3rd year running. But this is based on a capacity of innovation, on a capacity to integrate renewable energies in our network, to use data, to use electric vehicles. At the heart of innovation for a company like ours is the use of data. We produce 1 billion of data every day. All the suppliers in the first roundtable talked about offers, more innovative, more flexible, more green. It is thanks to this wonderful industrial innovation with the LinkedIn meters, and we were able to deliver this industrial innovation in times and below the budget, which is not so common for such a huge industrial project. One second dimension here is to support a change of mindset. I will give you one example of innovation. The Olympic Games in Paris, the first Olympic Games, totally connected. All the stadiums were connected to the electric grid, power grid, to prevent what you might not know, to prevent, especially during large evenings. Before we had diesel electronic groups that were being used, but the Olympic Committee imposed this electricity or this connection to the power grid. So innovation is a way to increase our performance, and we don't want to get too scattered. So we have priorities. We had a roadmap of innovation, which we share with the CRE. We also have a budget for innovation and R&D. And we have two main aspects there, innovation and R&D, to improve our industrial performance. We are a large company with an average of 5 billion investments per year in France, with as many competencies, skills, plants, factories, etc., and expertise. And then steering, the other aspect is to steer this network, which always needs to welcome more renewable energy, more mobility, more electricity, which means that we need to renovate in depth our steering mode and to develop and welcome new storage capacities. So innovation is at the heart of our activity, and it is also possible because the regulator and I want to thank them, considers that innovation is part of the lever and the assignment of a great operator like us. We mentioned some innovation lever which we'll put in place, which have been highly commented with the peak hours and the non-peak hours. So in order to meet those needs and the gaps between production, with some hot debates with the energy mix, we should not forget the networks. When we talk of cost, we should not forget the total cost of the electricity grid. Who pays what, category per category. So technical innovation, the AI, half of our projects at Enedis use AI, but these innovations are also regulated. So the CRE actually supports these innovations. And that's really what we have to do to prepare for the future and be more performant today. Thank you very much. Some very practical examples now. Let's start with Anne-Laure de Chammard. You mentioned a project with the most ambitious hydrogen project in Normandy in Europe. Which takeaways in terms of innovations, and what has been the role of the regulatory framework? Yes, indeed. We are working with TotalEnergies on this project, and it is thanks to the request of TotalEnergies that it is working. There's an important regulatory effect. It's a project of 200 megawatts in Normandy, in the Normandy region. Total committed to buy 50% of the production of this hydrogen to decarbonize their refineries. 28,000 tons of hydrogen per year produced as of 2026. This is an example of how the regulation has helped innovation. Why? We created demand, we released the investment, and it created local value. Okay, created demand, first of all the subsidies mechanisms which made the cost of the green hydrogen a bit cheaper for TotalEnergies with an offtake contract of 50%, the investment part, all the Air Liquide, for example, was helped to invest in the capex to produce this hydrogen plant. And then finally, we had conditions, and typically we adapted to be able to produce 60% of the electrolyzers which we manufacture. 60% of the production of the added value is made in France through French companies to meet this demand of French content. So it's an example where regulation actually allowed and facilitated this innovation in a smart way. Still, there are many things to be covered. Still, to continue on this hydrogen topic, it's one great project, but there are many more things. When we hear of all the projects announced in the world, only 4% of these projects came to the actual production phase. And I want to thank TotalEnergies. Most of these projects come from them. So that's a real topic. And I would say there are three things here, three things to release. The criteria killed the market before it even emerged, when people were saying we need to be able to produce renewable with the same grid at the same time, to produce and renewable at the same time as we produce hydrogen. So it added more complexity and more cost, which even killed the project before it started. So this has to be simplified. Second topic, what we were talking about just before. We have great ambitions in terms of quota for maritime, for air, but in terms of implementation in the countries, everyone, we're talking here about the European law, nothing is put in place. What Patrick was saying about Total, we hear that all the time from all people. Many people say, I'm ready to launch a project, but I'm waiting. I'm so scared because all these targets that have been put in place might never be applied or might never be reached, so I'm not going to be the one to lose, so I'm not going to invest. And the last topic is the European content for hydrogen. If you don't start by saying we need to put in place some criteria to create sectors for resilience and energy sovereignty in Europe and avoid unloyal competition. So it's like one of the products invented by Siemens, which is now 100% Chinese. I don't understand why we are not able to say that electrolyzers in Europe should be produced in Europe. I struggle why we can't just say this, state this simply. This is all public money that we're using to facilitate innovation. We should say that electrolyzers should be manufactured in Europe, not just France. That way, we could protect our stakeholders. I take the opportunity to say this. Absolutely, you're right. I had many discussions with several countries. France is a bit more pragmatic and rational. In Europe, people can be very naive. We are the only one really to say that we have to be extremely strict with the and all the countries where we sell, we say if you don't build factories, you're not going to get contracts. So we are implementing factories in all places, India, Saudi Arabia. It's only in Europe where we are not sufficiently strong. We buy green hydrogen and we use hydrogen, we buy electricity, we do the same. There's another country which has also innovated quite a bit in the Netherlands. There is an offshore wind project which forces us to manufacture electrolyzers. It's quite dynamic with innovative aspects. We have to manufacture batteries as well. So regulators, if they want, can help and innovate. Of course, this has a cost. There are many, it's always complicated, looking for support here and there, but we manage somehow. We have something similar in the Netherlands. We will also have another project to decarbonize our refineries. You are one of the leaders in terms of innovation for offers. What about your ambition on offers, on new offers? That's a real topic when you think of competition and what it is useful for. I was quite challenged by some people there. The question is about our clients. What benefit can they get from this? I think in France we look at prices, but there's another issue, which is how to better consume. In France, we had the Linky program. No, the problem is that we're not doing much with this program, with the Linky program. I know it's there. It's a tool which we need to use and better optimize. Why don't we use it enough? We have lots of ideas at TotalEnergies. We have developed super low hours tariffs, for lower consumption. I made some calculations. My colleagues calculated this and said, okay, you're not consuming enough, so you should change, your offer. You also have dynamic offers. 345 days a year, you have a good tariff, and for 20 days, we ask you to be less consuming. But these are all ways to show people how to give value to consumption, and if they see a benefit on their bills, it will work. We are looking at a new offer for a 9th hour. That could be a low-price hour. So it's always the same idea with weekend hours, etc. There's one main obstacle, however. When the consumption code says that a client that you want to help to make an effort, to change consumption, they can change supplier at any moment. I would say it kills the system. I found out this when I joined this section. If I want to support my client to do what I just said, to reduce the consumption, to help them use a Linky, it requests some investment, pedagogy with clients. Unless you have super geek clients who are happy, there are others. A competitor, I'm not going to say, look, and a competitor comes at their door and says, I can give you a cheaper price, then all your efforts are vain, So really, we need to have more aggressive offers for our clients to support innovation, but at the same time, to have a minimum of education, maybe 6 months or 1 year, to keep and maintain your client, at least for that length of time. It is not, the current situation is not good for developing better offers. You need to find a good database to have enough clients to develop these new offers. We know how to develop these offers, but we need to have enough clients in our database to do this, I'm asking this. I'm asking to reduce the liberty. There is too much liberty, in changing suppliers too easily. In France, everything is regulated, but in this way, you can just become a new electricity regulator by just passing this door. People are not going to verify you have the capacity, the finances. If you are registered as a regulator, you will get the job. So I'm surprised people don't draw lessons from this. And it will really help with the competition to have a better regulation, to look at the basis, the foundations of these suppliers. In the past, I did the regulation for telecom. The job descriptions were much stricter. You can't just get the job easily. Again, I'm taking the opportunity to say this, and this hasn't changed. In 2022, everyone was saying, "Oh no, what's this business? You can abandon your clients," and then I'm saying it's a real topic here. It's all connected. We need to find a balance, and the regulatory framework should facilitate and foster or give some liberty, but not too much to the extent of having a market that is only managed by cost and prices, and that is not good for innovation. This is what I've been observing, so I'm just sharing my mind on this. This is something I've already shared with Emmanuel. We also do B2C, and I think that's really important. If we want to reduce our emissions, we need to reduce consumption, we need to have digital and all of this, and there are vectors. These offers need to be distributed largely. Okay, the main innovation which we're trying to bring is to answer Pierre-André's request. Is Pierre-André still here? Okay, he's here. One thing is sure, and we are all in this, we are able to be innovative if we can provide electricity 24/7 to our manufacturers and main industries. It's nice with wind energy, but it's not really worth it. Nobody wants to have an on and off electricity. No. Unless it's coupled, yes. So we need to be able. This is why an energy company has an added value. We need to combine this with flexible means like batteries, gas plants, etc. Low carbon electricity. This would have an added value, and that's how we're going to make it. And we are doing this. We have convinced some PPA of this kind with Saint-Gobain in the US, in France, with ST Electronics. So there is an added value there. But the full measure, if we were to justify, TotalEnergies is not in this sector just to have solar plants. This would not be beneficial, especially if there are some regulated prices regulated by the CRE. My shareholders are not willing for me to invest in these things. CRE is okay, but we need to have true service, which is to bring low-carbon energy, which will become more and more decarbonized at an affordable price, because at the end of the day, people look at the price. And I'm insisting again on this. We need to... The issue is batteries in France is not quite, there yet. Someone asked me at the Parliament recently in the US, I know how to do renewable, and I'm able to have solar and batteries. The Spanish case will be in France soon. We lack batteries. It's not the fault of solar energy. The system, the regulator of this system, disconnected the flexible systems, did not have enough flexible systems. Asked 5 years ago, how in Spain are we going to be able to have a system both for batteries and solar energy? It's very important when we talk about renewable energy. If we only think of the tool, we miss the topic. This electric system must function 24/7. That's a problem with backups, with gas plants. You know what the Spanish regulator is doing? Their gas plants are working 24/7 because they're scared. So all of my gas plants are like a buffer for the Spanish system. So I'm quite happy, It wasn't working well before. It's working well now. I'm not sure it's the best way to have decarbonized electricity. And that's when we need to change our mindset. You know, we need to do transition. We need to think at the whole system. What strikes me with electricity, because it's much more complex than gas and oil, I have to say, much more complex, and you can't store it. So we need to rethink the system. When we think of cost economy, we need to be able to produce that. I'm going to give Pierre-André some comment. The forced debate, and the forced debate is not between us and EDF. I think all of us are wrong here. There are tools for production, and then you have public policies. Mr. Merz will soon announce some important reduction of taxation for manufacturers facing foreign competition. So our household's going to pay a bit more and manufacturers a bit less. If we ask EDF to do an equation of the systems, these are all political choices, you see. Political choices, it's up to the political people to take responsibility for their political choices. So we refuse to sign, this. We don't want to sign a contract that will put our industrial tools at risk. I think we need to reposition the debate, and for every party to do their job. What is France doing? We're talking about reindustrialization. I spoke 2 hours already talking about this. There are taxes on electricity. I can find some ideas if you want. Prices of electricity for manufacturers. It's not the full the baker or the SME. It's not so much them. It's those, the major ones. I think we need to do it, but it's a political decision which needs to be made, and then we will decide. It's not up to EDF to do this and to take responsibility. I think it would be better in the debate if we manage to have this kind of discussions. We are coming to the end of this round table. I came with some figures. The true price of electricity in all of my refineries in the world, these are true figures, 65 euros for megawatts, 109 in Belgium, Germany 105, 50 in the US. This is the reality of the cost of electricity. So France is not so bad, not the cheapest, but not so bad. If you're going to be upset with me if I give you the cost or the price for gas, 12 for the US, 40 for France. But that is not the topic. So it's not that bad, actually. There is a gap that is more in our favor. Now, 65, is it enough? No, the answer is no. It's not enough. Intensive electron should be at 40 euros. So it's a choice. Again, it's a collective choice. Are we keeping this or not? Thank you very much for this clear message. We will end with the two of you, maybe some practical example. You provide data, Marianne, Laigneau with Linky for innovation. Of course, TotalEnergies had lots of ideas to use the Linky meters. I just want to mention a number of points that he said. Yes, when we talk about costs and prices, we need to look at the whole electric system. Talking about the cost of renewable without including the cost of the network, would be misleading. It costs 3 times more when you want to connect a small solar panel system. We need to integrate everything. So we need to always think in terms of global costs for the electric systems, because you cannot store electricity. Second comment. Yes, France is fortunate to have Linky meters, Half of the European countries don't have smart meters, whatever the technology that they are using. Only half of the European countries have those smart meters. There are big suppliers in France, so they can offer some adapted offers to their consumers, to the clients, and some follow-up. You need to be aware of what it is that you are consuming. We were not very aware of our consumptions in the past. Today, almost 15 million accounts on applications to monitor, follow month by month, hour by hour, the consumption and compare this to an equivalent household. So this is a very good tool, very powerful in euros with some suppliers, in kilowatt with Enedis, and we have a number of consumers who follow this. So some people are now subscribing to these indications because it is very interesting for consumers and helps them to save money. Innovation is also about preparing the future. We are developing innovation here and now on what is already existing, as Patrick Pouyanné was saying. So you mentioned also mobility, electric mobility. This is one of our functions, and that is to connect the electric mobility. 2 million of electric vehicles today, maybe 3 or more in the future. Some electric trucks that we were expecting in 3 or 4 years already are here. We did not see it coming sooner. Those trucks are here, and they're asking for charging station. They are asking for connections on motorways. So we are working on this with the various ministries to have a plan to equip these infrastructures on the motorways, already equipped for quick charges, but we need to now welcome the heavier trucks. What is the best tarification, pricing, what is the best technology? Also for electric vehicles, we have a supplier at the moment selling revamped electric vehicles. That's Renault, with a battery that is reconditioned, which will be able to re-inject the energy or the electricity that it has stored that it has not been using. All this is not easy. Everyone's talking about it, but it is a new technological innovation which we have developed with Renault, with CRE. What is the regulatory sandbox? Is taking an innovation that is coming with a need for customers, and then we look at the regulation for the future. How is this going to work? We test, we make mistakes, we start again, we do things differently. Maybe we have a temporary regulation which we improve, and then it goes on to the next phase of industrialization for a few thousand clients. But in the future, it will be a lot more. So V2G with different dimensions, that is something that is already in place, and that is at the moment being under innovation. So we also have an action plan. The Commission is taking more and more into account the fact that without a network, there could be no transition. Having 24/7 electricity without a network, it would not work. So many countries, electricity is no longer available 24/7 because the networks are not available. So these are countries which either underinvested, which is not the case of France, but other gas countries which have to shift to electricity but do not have the right networks for this. So I think we should be proud because we have invested in a continuous way in the networks in order to deliver a competitive energy that is available all the way to the end point. So European innovation and the support of Europe is important. We don't have a fund for networks. We have European projects in which we are taking part, but we don't have any support mechanisms when actually the needs for investment in Europe are huge for all the reasons I have just mentioned. So the European dimension is key.
Thank you very much. We must conclude. Would you like to add any last comments? Perhaps something about what is the next step? What do we need in terms of regulation from the regulators? To sum up, Personally, and I think it's shared, I think we need long-term visibility, the need for harmonization, and also help and support in terms of skills and competencies. On the vision of the long term, we have a wind farm in France which employs 1,200 people, and this plant some time ago, because of tenders for offshore companies, was seeing a surge of 5 years, a surge in demand. So what did we do? We looked and we looked at all the tenders. We continued to invest in the extensions and the new investments and new future to be able to respond to future tenders. And we just got over the fact that we had these 5 years of lack of demand. But all of this is still a problem. We're going to have empty factories, empty plants for 5 or 6 years. So we don't know. So visibility is of utmost importance, and it's very important to look at the calendar for the investment in investment. Harmonization is another issue. Today, when you look at the United States or China, you're looking at huge markets, continental markets in Europe, and this is the topic of the Draghi report. There are 27 micro markets, and these 27 micro markets, where network managers have their own technical specificities for RTE or others, and we need to adapt so that each time we provide targeted services, not the same for each sector network. So I think the regulator here needs to harmonize to prevent overthinking things and just to move into action straight away. And thirdly, we've got skills. Today, Germany and elsewhere, it's the same. In Germany today, for an electrical engineer post, one electrical engineer post, there are 8 candidates. There are so many people who are retiring that we need replacements. In France, we have 600 or 6,000 a year. In Italy, that number is 1.5 million. We don't have enough people to meet the demand of the electricity transition. I mean, I know that we were talking about issues in recruiting. I know we can't talk about skills because there's a huge amount of work to be done there in Europe to reply to this, to meet this demand. So we recruit our engineers in India. Yes, I think we could have held a whole conversation on skill sets, because I think everyone here, and just quickly, the real message is that we need more Europe if we want to increase our innovation. We can't segment all of the markets. In the US, I have 1 regulation to respect, and there are 27 in Europe. I don't understand why we can't just create markets, electrical equipment that are standard and that we can all harmonize. I think we need to be more efficient if we want to meet our goals. Thank you very much. Thank you much for your participation and for this conversation, which could have gone on for longer.